lighting people, I'm very excited to be with you. Today, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a more unique video. I'm going to be showing you how to use a plugin that somebody else built. So this plugin is called FancyFan, and it is available on Add-on Desk to purchase. It was made by MA3 Extensions. That is, MA3 Extensions is the name of the brand. They're not affiliated with MA Lighting, but their plugins are really good. So they've built two plugins, FancyFan and Random Position, and I'm going to do videos on both. They are really good. Like, I started using these plugins, and especially FancyFan, I'm like, I need this so badly. I don't have a ton of fixtures, so I don't do a lot of stuff where I would want random things, but as far as a FancyFan, oh my goodness. I mean, I'm going to be using this all the time. It is my new favorite plugin. So I'm going to be showing you how to use these plugins, and you can purchase them at a discount. I have a special discount code you can use if you'd like to buy either one of them. You can use the discount code FLIGHT10 to get 10% off. And if you want to buy both, you can use FLIGHT15 to get 15% off when you purchase both. So go ahead and check out those plugins. I would also like to remind you that I am selling my Lua merch and my lighting merch. So I'm wearing my Lua shirt today because we're talking about a Lua plugin. But if you'd like to go check those out on my YouTube store, you can get one of these and match me as we program lights together. So to get right into the FancyFan tutorial, join me on my computer and we'll have a look at it. So I have both of these plugins right here. If you haven't installed them, you can just put the XML file on this file path on a USB stick, and then you can go into your MA3 plugin editor like this on any pool object, hit import, point it to your USB stick, and then click on the one you'd like to import, click import, and it'll come in here. You don't need to worry about anything else with that. But I've already imported both of these, and if you have not installed them, they will need to install some helper groups. So when I click on this for the first time, it is going to actually tell me that I have to have some fixtures selected. So let's select downstage washes. I'm going to turn them on just so we can see what they're doing, and click on this plugin. So because I haven't done it before, it's going to say all of this information. Here's the important part. FancyFan makes 22 helper groups in the group pool. Feel free to move them out of the way. You'll only see this when FancyFan can't find its helper groups. So it'll just put them in the first empty spaces in your groups pool. Don't need to worry about it. I'm going to close this. Now here is my FancyFan plugin. Now, basically what this allows you to do is have a very intuitive interface with which you can create very complex looks with your pan tilt attributes, and then you can store them in presets or use them in programming, just whatever you want to do. So we have a whole bunch of faders. They are color-coded between pan and tilt, which makes it a whole lot easier to use, I'm sure. And what I'm going to start with is just showing you how these work. So we've not given our lights any position information before opening the pop-up. Later we'll get into how to use it when you do. But to start off with, since I can't see any pan values unless I tilt them out, I'm going to use my tilt offset and turn it up. Pan and tilt offset simply move the lights all together to a new starting position that's offset from whatever the original was. So we're going to offset them all together, and then that's our new starting point from which we'll do the fan. I like to have them centered, but tilted out a little bit. Now we have pan fan, and we can use this to center or pan out the lights. Now, there's a difference between the way pan and tilt fan work. So pan fan is going to take a center position and move the lights outward from that position. Tilt fan is going to take a center position and move the lights in the same direction from that position. Because if you moved them opposite directions for tilt, it would go like that, and typically that's not what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the tilt fan. It does like this. It just kind of moves. Well, I guess I said it anchored the first. It's really anchoring the ends and then moving, but whatever it's doing. So we can choose our position like this, whatever we want. And we also have these tune faders. Pan, tune, and tilt tune are going to determine kind of how much distance there is between the fixtures in each direction, like whether the fan is weighted towards the ends or towards the center. In other words, you have your center fixture, or two fixtures if you have an even number, and then you have your outer fixtures, and then the ones in the middle are either going to be biased towards the outside or towards the inside. So tune is going to determine which way. So up, they're biased towards the inside, out and down, they're biased towards the outside. That's what that button does, or that fader does, and then this also does the same thing but with tilt. Now you can at any time click reset all faders to just reset the faders to their base positions. Another function we should talk about is the adjust. So I'm going to turn up my tilt offset. I have to give them a fan value before I can do adjust, but I'll give them a pan fan value. And now let's adjust it. So it's basically just adjusting how the fixtures are fanning compared to just letting it be kind of that default. So it's another form of tune in a way. Now our tilt adjust fader is grayed out. Why might that be? Well, the reason is because the tilt adjust is going to adjust different Y lines on the selection grid. So I'm going to have to cancel my pop-up and add a second selection on another line of the Y-axis. So let's go with upstage washes and downstage washes like so. I'm going to open this back up. Now, as you can see, my fader positions were remembered from before. If I would like my fader positions to reset, I can click auto reset before I cancel. And then when I open it again, I turn these on while I'm here. When I open it again, they're all reset, but I'm going to leave it off. So now my tilt adjust fader is not grayed out. I'm going to move this out of the way again. Let's move our tilt offset up and then give it a tilt fan. We do have to give it some values before we can use adjust for anything. Now let's go ahead and pull on that adjust fader. And what it does is it's anchoring the first line on the y-axis, but the second line and following are being adjusted relative to that one. So how far different from the baseline are they? That is the question that we have here. And I mean, that's pretty much what the pan is doing too. It's just on the x-axis. But I think it's a little easier to see with the tilt. So I'm going to reset my faders and, okay, this button also was grayed out before. Follow the line with most fixtures. So this one also requires that you have fixtures selected on multiple lines of the y-axis. But with this selection, it's not going to do anything. I'm going to need to select some lights that will give me a different number of fixtures on each line. So you have a line with most fixtures. So my air spots are a good choice because I have 4 on one line and 2 on another. I'm going to turn them on and open my plugin. Now, let's see. Tilt offset. Let's pan them out a little bit. Now both lines are being moved kind of irrespective of each other. If I turn this on, it's going to basically point those lights a little more in line with those fixtures on the line with most fixtures. So it's just adjusting how the calculation is made. This look I would call a little more round looking, and this is probably more similar to what I would most of the time want to use. But of course it's up to you in your individual situation, whether you need that on or off. Another setting we have here is normal fan versus crossed fan. You can select one or the other. The crossed fan is just going to invert every other fixture so that you have the fixtures crossing each other instead of being fanned out. Now we have invert pan direction, invert tilt direction. These just change which direction the faders go. So if your preference is the default where moving the fader up tilts out and in or down tilts in, then you can have it like this, or you can invert it. It's just how the dialogue works. And I like to leave them like this, but obviously it's up to you. Then we have these buttons right here, reset initial pan and reset initial tilt. And in order to use those, I'm going to have to give my fixtures a value before opening the pop-up. So you can do this with a preset, you can do it in the programmer, but you do actually have the option to give your lights values before you open the plugin, and then whatever you do with the faders inside the plugin is all going to be applied relative to that value. Now, what's happening kind of behind the scenes is when you open the plugin, it remembers the programmer values you set before you opened it. Now, when you adjust things in the plugin, it is actually live adjusting programmer values, but it remembers what they were at before you open the pop-up, and whenever you cancel out, it returns them to that value. If you hit apply, it's going to close the pop-up and leave the new values in the programmer. But if you click cancel, it is going to restore the initial values that you had. Now, what that means is if your initial values were blank, nothing, home position, then everything you do in the pop-up is just standing by itself. But if you give it values beforehand, all of that's going to be happening relative to that. But that position will be restored once you close the pop-up if you close it by hitting cancel. If you reset initial pan and reset initial tilt, it is going to reset what the values are before applying this fader values. But this actually overwrites whatever you had in the programmer before you open the pop-up as well. So now when I cancel, they're going back home because we have reset those values. That is very important. Now, another thing you want to be aware of is if you open the plugin and then select some values, adjusting these faders is going to reset basically those values. Nothing that you change outside of here while this is open will be retained because this is, again, remembering and basing all of its calculations off of the initial values when you opened it. So just keep that in mind. Now, we have some buttons here that are grayed out, and these are going to be related to the use of the other plugin by MA3 Extensions, the random position one. So if you have that plugin installed, which I have it in my show file, but I haven't activated it yet, if you have it installed, these buttons will not be grayed out, and you'll be able to use random positions with this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and set up that other plugin. I open FancyFan, Recalc R&D, and these buttons are now no longer grayed out like they were before I started using random positions. So now I'm going to reset all my faders. Let's do a tilt offset, add a little pan, and now I'm going to change these. So these are currently selecting pan and tilt adjust. Can change to pan random. Now, instead of moving this fader to this adjusted position that's not random, it's moving the lights towards a random position. How cool is that? This is my favorite thing ever. Like, this is the biggest upgrade to the FancyFan plugin, which I already loved. This makes it so you can just do anything with a FancyFan plugin. So I'm going to pan them towards a random position. Now, if I click pan adjust, it will make those adjustments apply to the regular values rather than random. Going random. So this fader, which changes back and forth between adjust and random, it remembers those values and just applies them differently depending on which mode it's in. Tilt adjust versus tilt random works exactly the same way. Well, you do have to give it a fan value first before you can then add to it randomly. Oh, I love this. I love this. This is so cool. It looks amazing. I love it. So we get our random value here. And if we don't like this random, we can hit Recalc R&D and it'll get a whole new random. We can do that as often as we want so we can get all kinds of random values and adjust them to our liking. Now, to move on to the things that are not related to the random position, we have a config button right here. Now, this is going to allow us to define what our limits are for how far the fixtures are allowed to pan and tilt, and it also gives us a programmer time. So you can set this fader to whatever you want, make sure programmer time is enabled, and then when you move these faders, the lights will fade rather than moving immediately. I prefer having them move immediately, so I'm going to turn that off. All of these faders settings are completely persistent until you change them. As far as the pan and tilt limit, your fixtures can pan and tilt so far, right? They have an ability, a physical ability to pan and tilt however far they can pan and tilt. This defaults to limiting them to 50% of that amount. But you can make it more, you can make it less, whatever you want. So if I have these panned 100%, I'm going to reset this to its default. If I have these lights panned 100% of the limit, that's what this percentage is. This percentage is percentage of the limit. 100% of the limit, but the limit's 50%. This is 50% of how far the lights can pan. If I were to set it to 100, they'd be going in a circle, and that's not ideal for me. Maybe you have a use for that, but not me personally. Now, what I think is probably a good level is like this. That looks like a pan to me. Any further, we're starting to get all mixed up, and it's confusing, and I don't want to do it. So this is a good amount, and then you can also set your tilt limit, same kind of thing. And again, these settings are totally persistent, so you set it once, you don't have to set it again. Of course, if you need it to be different for different fixture types, that kind of is what it is, but you have options to play with this and make it do whatever you need it to do. We also have a help button. You can view the user manual on the console with this. Otherwise, it did come with the plugin whenever you purchase it. But this allows you to view it on the console and refresh your mind on anything you need to see. So that's very useful. Now let's talk about storing position presets. So we've created a fan. We love this fan. We're so happy with this fan, but we actually have to do something with it, right? I mean, it really doesn't do a lot of good to just have it here and whenever we close the pop-up, we lose it. So one option I have mentioned is that you can click apply, and then these values are left in the programmer. You can do whatever you want with them, just like normal programmer values. But there's another option, and that is, I'm gonna reset everything because it remembered that value as the base values before I opened this, and then it reset them to be adjusted by the faders, so it was doing craziness. But let's say you want to make a whole bunch of position presets. You can do it super efficiently. So I'm gonna set this however I want it, and let's say I like that. Let's go with that. All right, store position preset, bam. Check this out. In the first empty spot in the position preset pool, I have my FancyFan. I can add a tilt fan to this. Yay. Okay, I like that. Store position preset. Bam, done. Now, you can also store position presets the normal way, just like this. There you go. Program values stored. This allows you, obviously, to store it wherever in the preset pool you want, as opposed to just in the first empty location, but it doesn't give it the nice name, so whatever works for you. Obviously, if you store a bunch of presets and then go organize them, that's an option. So basically, that is how this plugin works. It's going to make creating position presets so fast and easy. And oh my goodness, with the random, I mean, you can do anything, like anything. So definitely go check it out. Don't forget to use my coupon codes for 10 or 15% off if you buy 1 or 2 plugins. And I will see you in the next video. Have a great week and happy programming.